The year is 1865. As the American Civil War draws to a close and slavery is abolished in the United States across the Atlantic, a European monarch begins plotting a colonial enterprise that would result in one of history's most brutal regimes. King Leopold II of Belgium ascends to the throne, a tall, bearded figure with ambitions far greater than his small nation's size would suggest. "I do not want to miss a good chance of getting us a slice of this magnificent African cake," Leopold wrote privately, revealing his colonial appetites. Unlike other European powers that claimed territories as national possessions, Leopold pursued something unprecedented, a colony he would personally own. Through clever diplomatic maneuvering at the 1884 to 1885 Berlin Conference, Leopold convinced the world powers to grant him personal control over the Congo Free State, a territory 76 times larger than Belgium itself. He portrayed himself as a philanthropist, bringing civilization and ending Arab slave trading in Central Africa. The reality would prove dramatically different. Under Leopold's rule, the Congo became a brutal labor camp focused on extracting ivory, and later, rubber. As global demand for rubber soared with the bicycle and automobile industries, Leopold's agents implemented a horrific system of forced labor. Villages were required to meet impossible rubber collection quotas. Those who failed faced mutilation, hands and feet cut off as punishment or proof that bullets hadn't been wasted. Women were kidnapped and held hostage to force men to work. Floggings with the shikot, a whip made of dried hippopotamus hide, left victims flayed and often dead. Joseph Conrad, who witnessed these horrors firsthand, transformed his experiences into his famous novella, Heart of Darkness, describing the Congo Free State as the vilest scramble for loot that ever disfigured the history of human conscience. The death toll was staggering. While precise figures remain debated, conservative estimates suggest that the Congo's population declined by at least 10 million people, roughly half the pre-colonial population, between 1885 and 1908. When photographs of mutilated Congolese, including children with severed hands, began circulating in Europe, an international human rights campaign led by figures like E.D. Morel and Roger Casement forced Belgium to take the Congo from Leopold in 1908. The king burned many of his colonial archives before his death, destroying evidence of his administration's crimes. But what of the man behind these atrocities? Who was Leopold in his personal life? And what became of his bloodline, the descendants who would inherit the legacy of a man now remembered as one of history's great villains? Behind the colonial tyrant was a complex domestic life marked by both conventional royal arrangements and scandalous affairs. In 1853, Leopold married Marie Henriette of Austria, a union arranged for political reasons rather than love. The marriage by most accounts, was unhappy from the start. Marie Henriette, an enthusiastic horsewoman described as having the walk of a horse and the face of a horse, found little companionship with her husband, whose cold demeanor and colonial obsessions left little room for family life. Despite their personal incompatibility, they produced 4 children: Princess Louise, Prince Leopold, Duke of Brabant, Princess Stephanie, and Princess Clementine. Tragedy struck the family in 1869 when Prince Leopold, their only son and the heir to the throne, died from pneumonia after falling into a pond at age 9. This left King Leopold without a male heir, a devastating blow for a monarch obsessed with dynastic legacy. It was said that King Leopold broke down in public, collapsing to his knees beside the coffin and sobbing uncontrollably. As his marriage deteriorated, Leopold began a series of affairs. His most significant relationship was with Caroline Lacroix, a teenage French prostitute he met when he was 65 years old. Leopold lavished gifts upon her, including valuable properties and a noble title, causing scandal throughout Europe and further alienating his legitimate daughters. While Leopold meticulously built his colonial empire in Africa, his relationships with his 3 surviving daughters crumbled. Each would experience profound unhappiness, contributing to what some Belgians came to call the Curse of the Coburgs, referring to the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, to which Leopold belonged. Princess Louise, King Leopold's first child, entered into an arranged marriage at the age of 17, marrying Prince Philip of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. It proved disastrous from the start. Philip was cruel and unfaithful, reportedly maintaining relationships with men and women alike. Desperately unhappy, Louise escaped the marriage by beginning an affair with Count Geza Matačić, a Croatian officer. When the scandal became public, Louise's father and husband had Matačić arrested on false charges of forgery. He spent years in prison while Louise was forcibly committed to a psychiatric asylum. She was declared insane, a convenient diagnosis for problematic royal women of the era. After her mother's death, Louise obtained her release from the asylum but found herself deeply in debt. Despite Leopold II amassing enormous personal wealth from the Congo, estimated at roughly $1.1 billion in today's currency, he refused to help his daughter. She died in relative poverty in 1924, having lost both her royal position and her father's support. Princess Stephanie, King Leopold's second child life initially seemed more promising. At 16, she married Crown Prince Rudolf of Austria-Hungary, heir to the powerful Habsburg Empire. The union linked two of Europe's most prominent royal houses but brought her little happiness. Rudolf was intellectual but troubled, unfaithful, and eventually infected Stephanie with a sexually transmitted disease that left her unable to have more children after their daughter Elizabeth was born. The couple grew increasingly estranged. In 1889, Rudolf and his teenage mistress, Mary Wetzera, were found dead at the Imperial Hunting Lodge at Mayerling, an apparent murder-suicide that remains one of the most mysterious royal scandals in European history. At just 25, Stephanie became a widow in a foreign court that had never fully accepted her. She later remarried to Count Elemer Lonier, a Hungarian nobleman of lower rank. This morganatic marriage, one between people of unequal social rank, displeased her father immensely, resulting in another family rift. While Stephanie eventually reconciled with the Belgian royal family, her relationship with her father remained strained until his death. As World War II raged on across Europe, in April 1945, at the end of the war, forced Stephanie and her husband to leave their residence and take refuge in the Pannonhalma Archabbey in Hungary. Stephanie died of a stroke in the abbey later the same year. The youngest daughter, Princess Clementine, remained closer to Leopold than her sisters, though even this relationship had its complications. As his health declined, she cared for her father, yet he repeatedly blocked her desire to marry Prince Victor Napoleon Bonaparte, heir to the Bonaparte imperial claims. Leopold only gave permission for the marriage on his deathbed in 1909, apparently as a calculated slight to the French Republic he despised. Clementine finally married at age 38 and had 2 children. Of Leopold's daughters, she had perhaps the most conventional and stable life, though she too was affected by her father's controlling nature. As Leopold II lay dying in December 1909, a final act of family drama unfolded. With the assistance of compliant priests, the 74-year-old king married his young mistress Caroline Lacroix in a religious ceremony. Though not legally recognized by Belgian law, the marriage allowed Leopold to secure Caroline's position and the future of their 2 sons, whom he had recognized and granted aristocratic titles, Lucien Philippe and Philippe. On his deathbed, Leopold used elaborate financial mechanisms to transfer vast wealth to Caroline and their sons, attempting to bypass the Belgian law that would have given his estranged daughters their inheritance. This included properties in France and the valuable royal estates on the French Riviera. His daughters, led by Princess Louise, contested the will. The ensuing legal battle revealed the extent of Leopold's Congo-derived fortune and exposed family rifts that had been simmering for decades. Eventually, the courts invalidated some of Leopold's financial arrangements, returning a portion of the inheritance to his legitimate daughters. Caroline Lacroix, now widowed but extremely wealthy despite the court decisions, moved to France with her young sons. She later remarried and lived lavishly until her death in 1948. Leopold's illegitimate sons faced their own tragedies. Philippe died at age 7, while Lucien lived a relatively quiet life despite his father's attempts to secure him a noble future. With no surviving sons, Leopold II was succeeded by his nephew, Albert I, who inherited not just the throne but also the complicated legacy of the Congo. Albert implemented some reforms in the Belgian Congo, as it was renamed, but the colonial exploitation continued in modified forms for decades. When Albert I died in a mountaineering accident in 1934, his son Leopold III became king. Leopold III's controversial actions during World War II, including his surrender to Nazi Germany and his second marriage while his first wife had died in a car accident, led to accusations of treason and a political crisis known as the Royal Question. After a referendum narrowly favored his return, he abdicated in favor of his son Baudouin in 1951. King Baudouin, Leopold II's great-grandnephew, faced the dissolution of Belgium's colonial empire. During the Congo's independence ceremony in 1960, he praised Leopold II's colonial work, describing it as a civilizing mission undertaken with perseverance and courage, a characterization that horrified many who understood the brutal history of the Congo Free State. The current Belgian monarch, King Philippe, who succeeded his father Albert II in 2013, represents a different approach to this painful history. In 2020, on the 60th anniversary of Congolese independence, Philippe became the first Belgian royal to express deepest regrets for the wounds of the past, referencing the acts of violence and cruelty committed during the colonial period. Today's Belgian royal family, descended not directly from Leopold II, but from his brother Philippe, Count of Flanders, exists in a constitutional monarchy that bears little resemblance to the absolute power Leopold wielded over the Congo. King Philippe and Queen Mathilde have 4 children, with Princess Elizabeth, Duchess of Brabant, set to become Belgium's first queen regnant when she succeeds her father. The modern royals navigate a complex relationship with their family's past. Until recently, Leopold II was largely celebrated in Belgium as the Builder King for his architectural contributions to Brussels and other cities, funded, of course, by his Congo wealth. Statues of Leopold II stood proudly in public squares, and his name adorned streets, tunnels, and monuments. But as awareness of colonial atrocities has grown, Belgium has begun a painful reckoning with this history. In 2020, during global Black Lives Matter protests, Leopold's statues became focal points for activism. Several were removed or vandalized with red paint, symbolizing the blood on Leopold's hands. The city of Ghent removed a bust of Leopold on Congo's Independence Day, while Antwerp moved a statue to a museum where it could be properly contextualized. In June 2020, the Belgian parliament established a special commission to examine the country's colonial past. King Philippe's letter, expressing regret, though not a formal apology, represented an important shift in the monarchy's approach to this history. "This is a tremendous step forward," said Georges Nzongolan Talaja, a Congolese professor of African studies. "The acknowledgement of the wrongdoing of King Leopold II is a remarkable step, but we hope it will be followed by reparations." While Leopold II's direct bloodline through his legitimate children ended, his daughters either had no children or their lines eventually died out. His most enduring legacy may be found not in Belgium but in the Democratic Republic of Congo itself. The country that Leopold once claimed as personal property has suffered decades of instability following independence, including the assassination of its first democratically elected prime minister, Patrice Lumumba, with Belgian involvement, the long dictatorship of Mobutu Sese Seko, and devastating civil wars that have claimed millions of lives. Perhaps the most tangible remnant of Leopold's rule is the wealth that transformed Belgium. The grand buildings that earned him the title Builder King, including the monumental Cinquantenaire Arch, the royal greenhouses of Laeken, and expansions to the royal palace, were financed directly with Congo profits. Companies that extracted rubber, ivory, and minerals from the Congo formed the foundation of Belgian industrial wealth that persists today. The modern multinational corporation Umicore traces its origins to the Union Minière du Haut-Katanga, established to exploit the Congo's vast mineral resources during the colonial period. In Ostend, Leopold's favorite coastal resort, the Wellington Racetrack, the Royal Galleries, and other Belle Époque structures stand as elegant monuments built with blood money. For decades, tourists admired these architectural treasures without considering their dark origins. "Every building that Leopold II built in Belgium had Congolese blood in its mortar," remarked Congolese activist Mireille Tshousi Robert. "Before you go, make sure you subscribe to our channel. That's the only way you can support us." Thanks for watching. Until next time, remain curious.